Sometimes, freedom shows up when you least expect it, wearing the face of someone you thought was gone forever. The backyard was full of laughter, soft music, and the smell of grilled food. String lights hung above, glowing gently as the sun set over suburban Atlanta. Well-dressed guests chatted, held drinks, and smiled for pictures. Everything looked perfect. Nia Taylor stood near the food table, holding a glass of lemonade. She looked beautiful, hair curled, dressed neat, smile polite, but her eyes were tired. She nodded along as two women talked about their children's schools, but she wasn't really listening. She was somewhere else in her mind. Then she saw him. Across the yard, standing near the edge of the crowd, was a man she hadn't seen in over 12 years. Tall, with kind eyes and a familiar face. Isaiah, her big brother. Nia dropped her glass. It shattered on the patio, but she didn't care. Her heart raced as she stepped forward. "Isaiah," she whispered. He smiled and opened his arms. She ran to him and hugged him tight. Tears ran down her cheeks. For a moment, it was like they were the only two people there. Then, "What the hell is this?" Marcus, Nia's husband. He walked over fast, anger written all over his face. He wore a nice suit and shiny shoes, but his voice was loud and harsh. He grabbed Nia by the arm and pulled her away. "You out here hugging another man in front of me," he yelled. Gasps came from the crowd. People stared. The music kept playing, but everything else had stopped. Nia tried to speak. "Marcus, this is my brother. Isaiah." Marcus didn't care. He looked around at the guests, saw their faces, and got even more upset. His pride was hurt. He let go of Nia's arm roughly and walked back into the house, slamming the door behind him. Silence. Isaiah looked at Nia, confused and worried. Nia stood still, holding her arm where Marcus had grabbed her. A small bruise was already starting to show. She looked down, then reached into her purse and touched something she hadn't in a long, long time. Once a bubbly social worker, Nia Taylor was now a quiet, shadow-like woman. She used to smile easily. She loved helping people, especially children. Her friends used to say she lit up any room she walked into, but that was before the silence, before the fear, before Marcus. Nia met Marcus Taylor in college. He was smart, confident, and had a smile that made everyone pay attention. He said all the right things, made her feel special. He called her his queen. When he asked her to marry him right after graduation, she said yes, without thinking twice. At first, their marriage seemed perfect. He had big dreams and soon started a real estate business. Nia supported him while working as a social worker. Marcus worked hard, dressed well, and made friends easily. At church, people called him Brother Marcus and praised him for being a kind, successful man. He hosted church dinners, helped with youth programs, and always had a Bible verse ready. But behind closed doors, Marcus was someone else. He didn't hit her, not with fists, but his words hurt in ways no one could see. He controlled how she dressed, who she talked to, and where she went. He checked her phone and told her what friends were a bad influence. Over time, Nia stopped arguing. She stopped laughing. She stopped being herself. He didn't yell often, but when he did, it was sharp and cruel. He would say things like, "You're lucky I put up with you," or "You wouldn't last a day without me." When Nia cried or asked for space, he told her she was being dramatic, ungrateful, or not praying hard enough. When she mentioned therapy, he laughed. "What you need is the word, not a shrink," he said. Nia tried to believe him. She prayed more. She stayed quiet. She smiled when people were looking. But Shayla, her best friend, noticed. Shayla had known Nia since high school. She could tell something was wrong. Nia didn't come around as much. When she did, she wore long sleeves, even in summer. Shayla once saw a small bruise on her wrist and gently asked about it. Nia quickly said she bumped into a door, but her eyes told a different story. Nia's past hadn't been easy either. She and her older brother Isaiah grew up in a small, cramped apartment. Their dad died when Nia was just 6. Their mom remarried a man who was loud and mean. He drank too much and hit the walls when he was angry, sometimes more than the walls. Isaiah tried to protect Nia, but one night when he was 18, things got bad. He left after a huge fight. Nia was only 13. She begged him to stay, but he didn't. And after that night, he was gone. Their mother never forgave him for leaving. She told Nia that Isaiah was selfish and didn't care about family. She burned the pictures with his face in them. Nia tried not to believe it, but years passed. No phone calls, no letters, just silence. Until now, after 12 years, Isaiah found her. He tracked her down through an old friend who still lived in Atlanta. He showed up at the party, hoping to make things right. He wanted to see his little sister. He wanted to fix what had been broken for so long. That's what made Marcus's outburst at the party even more painful. Nia finally had a moment of joy, real joy, and it was ripped away in front of everyone. Her brother had come back, and instead of being able to celebrate, she was pulled, yelled at, and bruised by the man she was supposed to feel safe with. Now things felt even more complicated. Marcus had seen Isaiah. He was angry and confused. And Nia was waking up. For the first time in a long while, she felt something inside her stir. She remembered how it felt to be hugged without fear, to cry and not be punished for it, to be seen, really seen. Isaiah wasn't just a piece of her past. He was a piece of her strength she'd almost forgotten. And Shayla, she wasn't backing down either. She told Nia, "You don't have to live like this. You're not alone." Nia didn't know what to do next, but for the first time in years, she started to wonder if maybe, just maybe, there could be a life beyond fear. A life where she could breathe again. After the party, the house was quiet, but the air felt heavy. Nia sat on the edge of the bed, her hands still shaking. She hadn't even changed out of her dress yet. Marcus walked in, slammed the bedroom door, and stared at her with cold eyes. "So that's your story now," he said. "That man you hugged is your brother." Nia stood up, trying to stay calm. "Marcus, it's true. His name is Isaiah. He's my older brother. I haven't seen him in 12 years. Marcus laughed, but there was no humor in it. "That's convenient. You never mentioned a brother before. I didn't think I'd ever see him again," she said quietly. "He left when I was a kid. My mom told me never to bring him up." "Lies," Marcus snapped. "You made me look like a fool, hugging some man in front of everybody." I was surprised. I didn't know he was coming. It wasn't... Before she could finish, Marcus reached for her phone. "Let me see those photos then. Let's see this so-called brother." Nia quickly unlocked her phone and opened an old album. There were pictures of her and Isaiah as kids, one of them on a swing set, another in front of a tiny Christmas tree. She held the phone out, hoping he'd believe her. But instead of looking, Marcus grabbed it and threw it hard against the wall. The screen shattered. Nia gasped. "Marcus! That was my phone!" He stepped closer, his voice low and sharp. "Don't ever embarrass me like that again." Nia didn't answer. She picked up what was left of her phone and walked out of the room. That night, she slept on the couch, curled up with a blanket, tears soaking the pillow. The next morning, Marcus stood in the kitchen, eating toast like nothing happened. "You need to apologize to me," he said without looking up. "You made me look weak. Fix it." Nia said nothing. She just nodded, though every part of her felt broken. That night, after Marcus went to a late meeting, Nia slipped out of the house. She used a rideshare app on her old tablet to get to a quiet coffee shop on the edge of town. Isaiah was waiting for her at a back table. He stood when he saw her and gave her a gentle hug. "Are you okay?" Nia sat down, her eyes tired. Not really. They ordered tea, and for a while, just sat in silence. Then, Nia finally spoke. "I don't even remember what it's like to feel safe in my own home," she said, her voice cracking. "Every day, I feel smaller, like I'm disappearing." Isaiah's face tightened with emotion. "You don't have to stay there, Nia. You're not trapped. I can help you." "It's not that simple," she whispered. "People look up to Marcus. No one would believe me, and I don't even know where to start." Isaiah reached into his coat and pulled out an envelope. He slid it across the table. "What's this?" Nia asked. "Inside is the card of a good lawyer," he said, "and a check. It's not much, but enough to get you started, if you decide to leave." Nia stared at the envelope. Her hands trembled. "I'm not telling you what to do," Isaiah said, "but I'm here now. I won't leave you again." She nodded slowly, tears welling up in her eyes. For the first time in years, Nia began to imagine a different kind of life. A life without Marcus. A life where she didn't feel afraid, where she could breathe again. She didn't have all the answers yet, but for the first time, she had a choice. And that was the beginning. Marcus was changing, and not for the better. He became more controlling by the day. "I want you to quit your job," he told Nia one morning over breakfast. Nia looked up from her tea. Why? You don't need to work. I take care of everything, he said. And I don't like you around other people. But it's only part-time. I said quit, Nia. I'm not asking. That same week, Marcus installed new security cameras all around the house. He didn't ask her about it. He just did it. For safety, he said. But Nia knew the truth. He wanted to watch her, control her. Nia felt like a prisoner in her own home. So she found a small way to fight back. She bought a cheap burner phone and hid it in an old shoebox in the back of her closet. It was the only way she could safely talk to Isaiah and Shayla. Late at night, while Marcus snored beside her, Nia would quietly text them from the bathroom, heart pounding every time the floor creaked. One night, Nia had a dream. No, a memory. She was back on their honeymoon, walking by the beach. At first, everything had seemed perfect, but then she remembered how Marcus got angry when a waiter smiled at her. Later that night, he told her she was too friendly and that people would think she was easy. He didn't yell, he didn't hit, but he made her cry. And then he said she was too sensitive. That was the first time she felt something was wrong, but she had brushed it off, thinking maybe she was just tired or overwhelmed. Now she knew better. Isaiah, meanwhile, had started digging into Marcus's past. He was worried. Something didn't sit right with him. He made a few calls, searched old records, and what he found shocked him. Years ago, before Nia, Marcus had been engaged to another woman. Her name was Camille. Their relationship ended suddenly, and she filed a restraining order against him. The report said Marcus had shown signs of controlling behavior, and she feared for her safety. Isaiah was furious. He called Nia. You need to know this, he said, and told her everything. Nia felt sick. She had never heard about Camille. Marcus never talked about old relationships. Now it made sense. Shayla had had enough too. One day she saw Marcus at the grocery store. He was alone, checking out some items. She walked right up to him. If you touch her again, she said quietly but firmly, you'll see what happens. Marcus turned and gave her a fake smile. I don't know what you're talking about. Don't play games. I know what kind of man you are, and so does God. He didn't respond. He just picked up his bag and walked away. But Shayla could see it. He was rattled. At home, Nia felt torn apart inside. At church, people praised Marcus. They told her how lucky she was to have such a strong husband. Women smiled and asked when she and Marcus would host another Bible study night. Nia smiled back, but it felt fake. Her heart ached. She didn't want to ruin his image. She didn't want to disappoint her church. She didn't want to feel like a failure, but she also didn't want to live in fear anymore. She thought about Isaiah's words, Shayla's warning, Camille's restraining order. She thought about her younger self, the girl who had big dreams, who wanted to help people, who used to dance around the house singing off-key. Where had that girl gone? Then came the breaking point. One evening, Nia was cooking dinner. She was humming softly to herself, lost in thought. Marcus came in, asking where she had been earlier in the day. I went to the store, she said. With who? Alone. He didn't believe her. He walked over fast and grabbed her wrist hard. I don't like being lied to, he said through clenched teeth. But Nia didn't cry this time. She didn't pull away. She just stared at him. Her eyes said everything. Marcus let go, almost confused by her silence. Later that night, when the house was dark and quiet, Nia sat at her desk. She turned on her laptop. She went to the folder where she had saved the divorce papers Isaiah had sent her. She printed them. She signed her name. Her hands didn't shake. She felt fear, yes, but she also felt something else. Strength. Nia didn't know what tomorrow would bring. She didn't know how people would react, but she knew one thing for sure. She was done living in a cage. And for the first time in years, she could almost hear her own heartbeat again. It was saying, keep going. Nia set the dinner table carefully. She placed candles in the center, just like she used to when she and Marcus first started dating. The lights were low. Soft music played in the background. Everything looked peaceful. When Marcus walked in, he paused. What's all this? Dinner? Nia said with a soft smile. Just us. He looked around, a bit suspicious. What's the occasion? No reason, she replied. Just wanted to do something nice. Marcus slowly relaxed. He sat down and Nia served him his favorite meal. Grilled salmon, mashed potatoes, and green beans. They ate in silence at first, and then Marcus began to talk. He even laughed a little. It had been a long time since he seemed this calm. You look beautiful tonight, he said. Thank you, Nia said, still smiling. but inside, her heart was racing. Halfway through the meal, Nia stood up, walked to the kitchen counter, and picked up a folder. She came back and placed it gently on the table in front of Marcus. He looked at it, confused. "What's this?" She sat down across from him and met his eyes. "Divorce papers," she said. "I'm done, Marcus." Everything went quiet. Then, in a flash, Marcus stood up, knocking over his chair. He grabbed his wine glass and threw it across the room. It shattered against the wall. "You think you can leave me?" he shouted. "After everything I've done for you." Nia didn't move. She didn't cry. She reached into her pocket, pulled out her phone and pressed a button. The screen lit up. She was recording. "Go ahead," she said calmly. "Say that again." Marcus stared at the phone, shocked. His face turned red. He opened his mouth to yell again, but then closed it. He saw something new in her eyes. She wasn't scared anymore. He stepped back. Suddenly, the front door opened. Isaiah walked in. He had been waiting outside the whole time. Marcus exploded. "You set me up!" He rushed toward Isaiah, fists clenched. Isaiah stood his ground. "You're not going to touch her." Marcus lunged, but Isaiah grabbed him and held him back. They struggled for a few seconds, knocking over a lamp. Then, sirens. Red and blue lights flashed through the windows. Police officers burst in. "Step back! Hands up!" Shayla had called them earlier, just in case. She knew things might get out of hand. Marcus was arrested on the spot. The officers led him outside in handcuffs. Neighbors stepped out of their homes. They watched from porches and windows. People whispered. Cameras came out. The perfect image of Marcus Taylor, the respected businessman, church leader, good husband, was beginning to fall apart. Inside, Nia stood with her arms crossed, breathing deeply. Her heart was still beating fast, but she didn't feel fear. She felt something else. Power. Isaiah walked over and gently touched her shoulder. "You okay?" She nodded. "I'm better than I've been in years." They both looked at the broken wine glass on the floor. Nia smiled faintly. "It's just glass," she said. "It can be cleaned up." So could her life. And this time, she would be the one to rebuild it. Weeks later, Nia moved into a small apartment on the quiet side of town. It wasn't fancy. The walls were plain and the furniture was simple, but it was hers. There was no shouting, no fear, no cameras watching her every move. It was peaceful. Each morning, she opened the windows and let the sunlight in. She made her own tea. She listened to music she loved. For the first time in a long while, she felt free to breathe. Soon after, Nia joined a group therapy class for women who had been through abuse. At first, she was nervous to speak. She just sat and listened, but after a few sessions, she shared her story. The women listened with kind eyes and open hearts. Some cried, some hugged her after. She wasn't alone. Isaiah stayed close. He helped her move and checked on her often. One day, he surprised her by reconnecting her with a few old friends from her social work days. They met for coffee, and Nia laughed more in that one afternoon than she had in years. Shayla visited often too. They talked, watched movies, and made new memories. Their friendship grew even deeper. Meanwhile, Marcus tried to call. He sent messages, emails, even had someone bring a note to her door. Nia didn't answer. She had blocked him from everything. One afternoon, Nia met with a lawyer Isaiah had introduced her to. The lawyer was kind and listened carefully. She told Nia more about emotional abuse laws, how it wasn't just bruises that made something abuse. Control, fear, isolation, those were real forms of harm too. Nia nodded, soaking it all in. She felt angry for what she had been through, but stronger knowing she now had rights and support. A few weeks later, Nia was invited to speak at a small community event for survivors. She stood on a small stage, looking at the faces of women, young and old, watching her. She held the microphone with steady hands. "I used to think that surviving meant staying," she said, "that if I could just be quiet enough, patient enough, kind enough, I could make things better." She paused. "But I was wrong. Surviving didn't mean staying. Surviving meant leaving, choosing myself, choosing freedom." The room was silent for a moment, and then warm applause followed. After the event, Nia stood outside with a cup of coffee, looking at the sky. She smiled. Not the fake smile she used to wear like a mask, a real one, soft where peaceful, true. It had been a long, hard road, but now Nia was walking it on her own terms, and for the first time in years, she felt like herself again. One quiet morning, Nia got a letter in the mail. It was from her mother. Inside the envelope was an old piece of paper, worn, a little faded, but still easy to read. It was a poem, her own handwriting. She had written it when she was in high school and forgotten all about it. Her mom found it in her old room while cleaning and thought Nia might want to see it. Nia sat down by the window and slowly read the words out loud to herself. One day I'll be free. One day I'll breathe, and I won't need permission just to be me. She stopped reading. Her eyes filled with tears. But they weren't tears of pain this time. They were tears of peace. She smiled through them, holding the poem close to her chest. That younger version of her, so full of hope, had no idea how hard the road ahead would be. But now, that dream was real. She stood up and walked to her small balcony. The morning sun was rising, painting the sky in soft orange and gold. A gentle breeze moved through the trees. Nia closed her eyes for a moment and took a deep breath. No one was yelling. No one was watching her. She was alone, but not lonely. She was free. She opened her eyes, looked out at the world, and whispered to herself, "This is what freedom feels like." Fade out. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe for more content. Leave a comment below to let us know your thoughts. Your support means a lot, and we look forward to seeing you in the next video.